So this is going to go quickly over the application process and what you need to know in order to pass the actual interview when you want to either intern or get a full-time job as a software engineer. So a little bit about me real quick is that I graduated a few months ago from UCR. I graduated degree in computer science, and I also interned at Amazon for 2 summers before I graduated. And since I've been graduated, I have been working at VMware as a software engineer. And interestingly, I didn't really know that software engineer was a job or even existed until my 2nd year of college. Before that, I was a business major, by the way. And I also, at UCR, I played the clarinet in the concert band here. So real quick, common majors that do software engineering are CS, CSBA, CE, and electrical engineering. You can also do math major and business major if you're watching this on YouTube, but I would say the most popular is CS. And if you're going to do math, make sure that you do the applied and computer science math degree. And if you're going to do business, make sure you at least get a minor in business, minor in CS. So there are a lot of jobs that you can get with these majors, and these are pretty much the top jobs. But I would say that today we're just going to focus on the SWE interview, so there's software engineering interview. And something I left out of here is a hardware engineer and low-level programming kind of stuff, which is different than the general SWE interviews. So that's going to be more applicable to people who are in computer engineering and electrical engineering. And for you guys can also do SWE, but you guys also have the option of doing some more low-level things that most people who are, for example, majoring in math, CE, or business, math, CS, BA, CS, in business, they're probably not as qualified for those low-level things as CE and EE are. So, but we're not going to be talking about this today. We're just going to be talking about software engineering. And this is for people who want to get an internship and full-time role. So the reason I'm going to go over this entire presentation is because in the SHPE Discord channel for job opportunities, I could post a lot of jobs there, but a lot of people might not be confident enough to actually apply to them. And so this presentation is going to give you an insight into exactly what you need in order to pass the interview. And hopefully will give you enough confidence to actually apply to all the jobs that are going to be posted in that Discord channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you join the SHPE Discord as well. So the first tool, and is probably the most important tool, is called Leetcode.com. And this is just the website that allows you to practice your coding interview skills. And so there are different levels of questions, and also you need to make sure you understand all of these things before you're confident enough to pass the interview. And I'm not going to get too deep into this. I'm going to give you guys all the slides and everything so you guys can read them on your own time. But basically the first resource is Leetcode.com. And a good plan for Leetcode is to do around 30 easy level questions before you start doing some medium level questions. I'm going to be honest, you're going to feel really dumb when you first do easy level questions. I remember, I think the first 3 or 5 easy level questions that I did, I just couldn't even solve a single one. So it's called easy, but it's not that easy. I mean, it's easy relative to the other questions, I'll be honest. Yeah, the other questions are a lot harder, but it's not easy. None of this is going to be easy, but that's okay because that's why you're going to practice. And then make sure you look at this. You need to know all of these. Luckily, all of these are taught in school as well. So they're going to be taught in school, but make sure you practice Leetcode questions that involve all of these. And you're going to get a Leetcode question from any of these categories in the real life interview. So how important is Leetcode? So there's an app called Blind. And Blind is an application where you have to verify your email address that says you work at a certain company in order to join the app and post on it. And so I asked all these engineers, how important is Leetcode when it comes to passing the interview? So basically, what percentage of your ability to pass the interview relies solely on being able to Leetcode? And as you can see, if you add these up, you have around like 70% of people said that Leetcode accounts for at least 80% of the coding interview, the whole process, right? So if you can Leetcode, that's like 80% at least of your chances of getting a job. And we'll go into the reason why it's like why it's like that. And honestly, it's a little bit messed up. It's a little bit of a game where it doesn't, it's kind of like the SATs for college where like there's a whole industry preparing people for it for right now. And yeah, it's a little bit of a game. It's not the best process. Everyone knows it's not the best process, but it's just the process that exists. So another tool you can use is pramp. Pramp.com is a website that allows you to get paired up with someone else who is also trying to interview, and you guys just basically mock interview each other. And so this is also important. And make sure you do this as well. So are there any questions on the tools, by the way, the Leetcode and pramp? Anyone? If anyone wants to ask a question, go ahead. Okay, it's fine. We can move on to the interview process. So there are a couple stages to the interview process for software engineering, both internship and full-time. So number one thing is you want to obviously apply. So let's go into the application process and the different ways that you can apply to an internship or a full-time role in software engineering. So when it comes to applying, make sure that you have your resume ready, but don't just go to all these events on campus from career fairs that tell you, make sure your resume is professional, make sure it's like all of that stuff is great advice or whatever, but everyone already knows that your resume should look professional, that it shouldn't look too flashy. Like everyone already knows that stuff. So specifically when it comes to software engineering, you want to make sure that you pamper your resume with words like Docker, Kubernetes, Node.js, all these things that you should explore through your side projects. So side projects should involve some technology like database, MongoDB, or Docker. And then you want to make sure that those words are on your resume so that someone who says, I'm looking for an intern who knows who has been exposed to Docker and Kubernetes, they'll pick you up. All right, so this is how you get your resume at least looked at through some sort of automated scanner, or once it gets in the hands of a real person, an engineer who is determining whether or not they should bring you on site to interview you. They want to see these kinds of things. So once you have your resume ready, that's great. Make sure that you reach out to people that you know in your network to get a referral. It doesn't even have to be someone you know. It can be a friend of a friend. So for example, for me, I asked for my first Amazon internship. I got a referral from a friend of a friend's mom who worked at Amazon. So your network can be pretty wide and you don't have to exactly know someone really well in order to get a referral. The companies give people who give out referrals a bonus if the referred person ends up getting a job. So if you get a job because of a referral, the person that referred you gets money, right? So there's an incentive for them also to give out referrals. Other ways to get your application in besides the referral is a hackathon or a conference. Oftentimes they will post links for job applications that are specifically only for people who attended a certain hackathon or attended a certain conference. And so unless you attended those conferences, you can't apply to that link. So make sure you go out to hackathons and conferences. And of course, you should have your resume ready. Whenever you ask someone for a referral, you should give them your resume. And if you go to a hackathon or conference, make sure you have your resume ready. And of course, yeah, just go to the company websites as well. If you don't have a referral or you didn't go to a hackathon or a conference, you can just go to a company's website. And all major tech companies have a specific job website meant only for university students. So you're not competing with people who have years of experience. So here's a couple of links to these websites that I'm talking about for university students only. So let's just actually go. So this is Twitter's website for university students. And as you can see here, this is meant for university students. They got a lot going for university students. They even have a podcast. So they're saying the 2020 applications are now closed. So that was the summer before this, right? Or the current summer, the summer that just passed. Their applications are now closed. It says our 2021 application for internships will open in the fall 2020. So basically fall 2020 is what's about to happen right now. And they're saying the 2021 applications are going to open right now, basically. So you apply now for the summer internship later, right? So you apply in the fall quarter for an internship in the summer quarter. Does that make sense? I'm just going to assume you guys said yeah. So that's why we're actually having this talk right now, though, because the applications are open now if you want to intern or get a job in the summer. Let me go back into view. Okay. So the second part is, well, after you apply, that's great. You're gonna get a coding screen. A coding screen is it's like a part of the interview, but it's not with a human being. So coding screen, this is I got an email from Robinhood back when I was applying that says, here is your coding screen. You just sign up and take the coding screen test. And basically this is just to weed out people who don't really know how to code. And it's not that hard, to be honest. The best way to prepare for it is using Leetcode Easies and Leetcode Mediums. So after you pass the coding screen, you move on to the real interview. The real interview is with the real life person. So it's going to be with the engineer. And this is actually where most people fail. So that Robinhood application I was just talking about, this is my rejection from Robinhood that says, okay, well, you kind of just failed Robinhood part 1 real interview. And it says, okay, so the thing about this section of the interview process is that you want to make sure that you speak out loud while you code. And if you don't speak out loud while you code, the interviewer is probably going to stop you and ask you, what's your plan before you start coding. So make sure they don't have to do that. Make sure you just speak out loud before they have to tell you to stop and explain what you're doing. This that I just got a rejection for, which is the real interview that I'm talking about right now, is a 1 hour block interview. Around 15 minutes of it is spent talking on non-technical things like, I don't know, go over your resume. Do you have any questions for me? Who are you? Maybe like behavioral interview questions, things like that. But a good chunk of it, like 30 to 40 minutes of it, is going to be spent over maybe 1 or 2 coding interview questions. And the best way to prepare for this is Leetcode and pramp.com, and also just mock interviewing with your friends. Okay, so you passed the first real life, or like I guess you would say interview with a real person, and now you're on the second interview section. So if you're on the second interview section, it gets a little bit trickier and a little bit harder. So this is the real interview part 2. Okay, so this is an example of my schedule that I got from VMware that says this is your schedule for your part 2 interview, basically. And this is when, if you're full-time, if you're looking for a full-time job, they'll fly you out on an airplane and they'll say, maybe they'll fly you in the night before, which is what happened to me. And they'll, pay for your hotel, pay for your flight, everything. It's not going to be financially stressful for you at all. And they're going to expect you the next day to basically interview the whole day. So as you can see, the start time was 12:30 for me. And then my last interview ended at 4 p.m. and they're just back to back to back. So you need to be prepared for that. It's going to be strenuous, and you need to be prepared to basically give a bunch of interviews for like 4 hours straight. And finally, after that, you're going to get a decision, hopefully an offer. So if you get an offer, that's great, because you probably applied to around 100 plus positions. You probably got around 5 to 10 interviews, and you passed maybe 1 to 3. And that's really hard, and it's like a full-time job, this whole job application cycle. I remember I applied to more than 100 jobs, and I spent, I think, 2 solid weekends, like 2 whole weekends at a coffee shop, just applying all day long. And then 1 extra weekend, I spent it with my girlfriend. We just kind of just had fun at a coffee shop and just applied to jobs as well. It wasn't that serious. So yeah, it takes a long time though, and expect that, and plan for that. Plan for your entire weekend to be taken up by job applications. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to spend an hour on it, because that's not enough time. You need to apply to a lot of positions. And if you didn't get a particular offer, make sure that you keep your recruiter's info, because you can ask them later, maybe in 6 months, if you can interview again. Also, it's not uncommon to fail a company, like a bottom tier company, like a company that you thought was easier to get into, but then actually pass the interview for a top tier company. That's actually very common. Also, don't be discouraged. Like I said, most people get like 1 offer for every 30 plus applications. Okay, now what happens if you don't get an internship, right? If you try really hard and you don't get an internship, you don't get the full-time offer. So if you were looking for an internship, there are a couple things you can do with your summer. And the whole plan is to not basically don't have a summer where you don't do anything, right? So if you're looking for an internship, get a research position on campus, and sometimes those research positions, you can do them over the summer. There's Google Summer of Code, which the application opens in March. And basically that just helps you, it's like a mini project for you to do over the summer. You can get a job at the ARC Academic Research Center on campus as a supplemental instructor over the summer. And you can also attend hackathons over the summer, like Hack Girl Summer. Now, if you were looking for full-time work and you didn't get a job, of course you can keep applying because there are a lot of companies that do applications full-time over the year. Then you also need to keep Leetcoding because the reason you probably didn't get a job is probably going to be because you didn't Leetcode enough. And also just remember that you're going to find a job, and there's no point in stressing over whether or not you're going to find a job. Just Leetcode. Like I said, unfortunately, Leetcode is kind of like the game that you play for getting a software engineering internship or job. So how do you know when you're ready to start applying? Actually, let me check the time real quick. Okay, we're not too bad on time. So how do you know when you're ready to apply? So apply now if you're a third year or plus, or if you're going into your third year, right? So if it's about to be your junior year or more, you should start applying now to internships. You don't have enough time to worry about, oh, I need to get ready for Leetcode. You need to start applying now and Leetcoding now as well. And you can also apply to these internships if you've taken CS12 or CS14. That's enough to start applying, even if you're a freshman or a sophomore. But if you're a freshman or a sophomore, there's something designed specifically for you. And there are programs at companies that are limited only to freshmen. For example, I think Microsoft Explorer internship is only for freshmen and sophomores. So you can do that, and you don't have to compete with all the other university students anymore. And there's also Facebook University, which is open for people who are from disadvantaged communities. So you can apply to these, and there are many more of these types of internships. And also, if you're a freshman or sophomore, take CS12 and 14 at UCR as soon as possible. They're really important. And take CS14 very seriously. And you should also start Leetcoding now as soon as possible, because the more Leetcode, the better, and it increases your chance of getting that internship or full-time offer. Now, you should start doing a side project, even if, I would say do a side project, even if you're maybe in your junior year or even afterwards if you're still looking for a job. One good side project is using the Twitter API. So it's called SHPE, I believe. And this is kind of like the hello world of side projects. So you know how everyone, when they learn a new language, they write a hello world program. When everyone's going to do their first project, a lot of the times they just pick the Twitter API to do a project based on. And it's honestly not that hard. And it allows you to do cool things like pull a bunch of tweets from Twitter. And then also, if you're a freshman or sophomore, you can become an ARC SI leader, as I said before. And this is a really good job. I actually did ARC 35 lab leader, and that was great on my resume. But basically, the whole point is don't spend a summer doing nothing. If you spend a summer doing nothing, that just decreases the amount of technologies that you could have learned, or you could have expanded your network during that time. And there are a lot of events out there that Amazon hosts, and I'll link you guys to one after this talk, where it's designed just for people who are looking to get an internship or a job offer, and they'll kind of just walk you through the job application process at Amazon and everything. So, I mean, they're reaching out, they're making it a lot easier for you now, and you can send these things for free. And so there's no reason to spend your summer doing nothing. And of course, believe in yourself, because when you see that job application for Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, your first thought may be, there are people I'm competing against from MIT, Stanford, UCLA, Berkeley, all these top tier schools. But the truth is that there's a lot of jobs open and internships open for you. And there are a lot of UCR students who work at top tier companies. So just because you're not from what you consider a target school, which, by the way, UCR isn't even that bad of a school, to be honest. It's pretty good. But just because you're not UC Berkeley, you're not MIT, doesn't mean that there's no job out there for you at top tier companies. And there's a lot of jobs out there for you at top tier companies. So let me just quickly talk about someone on my team, VMware. He was an intern, and his initials are D&M. So he interned at VMware. He is from a non-target university, so basically the same as UCR. He applied to over 20 companies, and he said he got 2 offers, one from United Healthcare and one from sorry. He got one from United Healthcare and then one from VMware. So this just kind of just shows that I just pulled the intern aside and I said, hey, did you go to Target University? No, he didn't. And he's got a great internship at VMware right now. So here are a couple of links, things like Leetcode links, HackRank, pramp. Also these things meant for freshmen and sophomores that I was talking about. And that's basically it.